All right, day 4. Today I want to talk about exposure therapy, and I don't want to talk about the nuts and bolts of the science behind it because there's plenty that you can look up and research and learn about. But I want to talk about some nuances to approaching fears that don't get talked about as much. So exposure therapy, exposure and response prevention is the fancy name for it, is a treatment that's used to treat PTSD and also different anxiety disorders like OCD, phobias, and it's super effective. And how it works is that you are helping someone expose themselves to their trauma or their anxiety while helping them with the coping skills and the tools to manage that. So bit by bit, you're approaching something and you're using those coping skills that you're learning as well in therapy to manage the reaction that you're having. And over time, you habituate to that anxious thing, that phobia, that issue, that thought, that trauma, and hopefully it becomes extinguished, that you no longer feel any anxiety towards that thing. I think what happens typically, I know what happens typically with anxiety and with trauma, the natural response we have is to avoid the thing we're scared of. It's just human nature, right? Like, why do the thing that feels scary? The problem with that is that life becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. You start avoiding more, you start holding up more. The goal is not to avoid everything that makes you feel scared and anxious. The goal is to, oh, well, almost hit that. This ottoman is out of control. The goal is to live a life and live a full life and be able to approach the things that make you anxious and to hopefully not feel so anxious about them over time. But I want to talk a little bit about trauma in general and this idea of disclosure and talking about trauma. I know that this series, that's not all this 100-day series is about, but it is one key piece. And there's a couple different pieces to talking about trauma that I see as exposure therapy that is extremely healing. So one, and I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth a little bit here, but just bear with me for a second. One is that you talk about your trauma, you tell someone, and in your head, let's say you've been living with something, it's been a secret for a long time, and in your head it means something about you, that you are disgusting, unlovable, unworthy, all of these horrible things that we carry, unfortunately, because we believe that the trauma means something about us. We mistake ourselves and our identity for the trauma. They become like merged in this yucky way that we don't even really understand that because we're so like tangled up with it. We haven't had any chance to see it from the outside because we've just been with it. We haven't talked about it. You have this feeling like you're gonna tell someone and they're gonna think all those things about you. They're gonna leave you. They're gonna, their face is gonna crinkle up with disgust, and they are going to. This is what I really honestly felt. They are gonna just abandon you right then and there, and see you as a disgusting monster. Oh, I shouldn't have said you. I should have said me, because saying that to you, all you, feels really bad. They're gonna see me as this disgusting monster. I don't want to say that about myself either at this point. Like, you think that all of your own fears about what this means are gonna be true. And then they don't see it that way. They love you more. They see your strength. They reflect the parts of you that got through it, that are here and sharing. They love you. They cry for the pain you've been through. They want to know how they can help. They believe you. They see that person who did this to you as the disgusting monster. And you're like, wait, that's right though. They are the one who did this, not me. How did that get confused? I have to say, when I came out with what had happened to me, I had this weird realization that everything I thought about myself was actually true about the person who did that to me. It was like I got the two things conflated, I merged myself again with the perpetrator and with the trauma, as opposed to all the fears I had about what people would see about me or what people saw about him. And it was like, it was bizarre. It really truly was an eye-opening experience. Okay, so when we think about exposure therapy, I walked up to the thing that I was scared to do, tell someone. I approached my trauma in this new way. And the outcome that I got from some people, the people who are my ride or dies, my loves, my siblings, my friends, they helped me reshape my beliefs because it gave me a whole different perspective, right? Like, it let me not curl up with it in the same way. Okay, now there's another piece, and this is where I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth, because we're not depending on somebody else's opinion to change our opinions about ourselves. There are people who are going to say fucked up things. There are people who are going to think you made it up because this is fun. Yeah, this is something I thought would be cool. True. Yeah, I really wanted this one to be true about me. Like, it's so fucking ridiculous, but there are people who are going to say you made it up. There are people that are going to say you're crazy, that you're this, that you're that, that might leave you. I lost people because my perpetrator was my father, and in my family, like, it was like a fracturing. I was so grateful, and I used to say lucky, but now I just think, like, I don't think it's lucky that my siblings all stood with me. I think it's fucking awesome. I'm not gonna say I'm lucky. Like, I should be praying that people stick by me and see my truth. Like, no. They are badass, capable, grown, emotionally intelligent people who were able to walk beside me. And there were a lot of people that weren't. But by going through that process, I learned that I was strong enough to navigate those opinions and those reactions. And I even got to a place where I was able to not take that shit personally, which is insane, right? Because someone's talking about me, about my fucking trauma, about my sexual trauma. And like, to be able to get to a place where I'm like, that's a them problem, was so fucking awesome. Like, I don't know how else to put it. I am almost more proud of that than anything. Not saying it didn't hurt and didn't cause me so many sleepless nights and pain and struggle. Like, I wanted to campaign and be this like perfect victim and convince. And I got to a place where I was just like, I'm not doing that. You know, I'm not. The people who believe me, they believed me from the beginning. They knew me, and they knew that I wasn't gonna be making this up, but they also had the capacity to hold this truth. And I think that's the piece. Like, there are people that do not have the capacity to hold a truth like this, even though it happens all the time, unfortunately. It's shocking, but it's not surprising. People are sexually abused all the time. And yet we act like, oh my God, no, this could not have happened. What? You know, it's like, yeah, just because people don't talk about it and they haven't talked about it, just because the rules of my dad's extended family was to shut the fuck up and let the men talk and let the men do whatever they want and be quiet. And because I broke that rule, I was the one they pointed a finger at. And you know what? Fine, fuck off. Like, so, okay, I'm getting a little heated. But honestly, like, I might sound angry. I'm not even. I don't even really care anymore. I've just like detached emotionally from all of that. And it's taken time, but I want to say, like, approaching what I was so scared of, exposing myself to the thing I was scared of, talking about my trauma, opening up about it, telling the truth about what I had been through, was the scariest thing in the goddamn world, and it took me a long, long time to get to a place of acceptance with myself and then be able to share that. And the people who are my ride or dies, I actually formed this whole new connection and love with that I didn't even know was possible. It was so much deeper. And then the people who I lost, I learned something about myself, that I could handle that and that I could move through that. And that taught me so, so much. I'm not trying to like silver linings this and like say, oh, just look on the bright side, because it fucking hurt and it was painful. And you know, those relationships that I thought were stronger, that fractured, yeah, it was painful. But I moved into a place of acceptance of what those relationships really were and what those people actually, you know, I want to say thought of me, but also what they were capable of holding. So as I'm saying this, as you go through a healing journey of your own, as you take steps forward, you approach the scary thing. You approach telling a therapist. Like, that was my very first step, way, way, way before I told anybody else. Telling a therapist. It doesn't have to be some big declaration. Just tell them a little nugget, you know, just dip your toe in. Find one trusted person in your friend who has gone through sexual trauma of their own, or who is a therapist, love therapy, but like who you know is awesome and you know has the like capacity, who's gone through something hard, who has had a fucked up childhood. Like, those are your people. Go find someone and just start the process of opening up. Because you know what happened for me when I told people? I heard about, oh, my friend's sister, my friend's brother, my friend's boyfriend, and my friend, or all these people that have gone through sexual abuse and sexual trauma that no one had ever spoken about. But me talking about it started giving people permission, and it gave me space, and it gave me connection, and that's powerful. Don't start the process by talking to, you know, your like Trumpy uncle who hates women. Like, you know, low-hanging fruit, let's start there. The succession with which people found out once I disclosed this was like so fast and so insane. I don't know if you know, it's like I lit a match and I had to throw it and I just let it burn, and like letting go of that control was really, really intense. If you're coming into therapy to do exposure therapy work, you would not be flooding someone with that level of anxiety and intensity. You're like going bit by bit. But out in the real world, you can't control it perfectly. And part of this process for me was letting go of people's perception and just being with my truth and being unshakable in accepting that for myself and loving myself through that. So, my dear friend, I want to say it gets easier. It really does. Hang in there. Find a friend. Find someone. Read books about this topic. Read stories. Find other people who are further along than you, and like curl up with that, because there's an army of people who have been through these experiences. We just haven't had the opportunity to know that because we haven't had the opportunity to talk to each other. And that, the talking and the bringing it forth, that can change the world, and that can change yourself and your perception of what you've been through and your strength, and that's powerful. So hang in there. I love you. You got this.